Bonjour! For the next 10 weeks, we're going to do a series of videos where we talk about 2 words or 3 words that we often get confused as English speakers in French. And today we're starting off with the verb to know in English. In French, we've got either savoir or connaître. And we're going to talk about what the difference is between je sais and je connais. So in English, when we want to say we know something, it's easy because we can just use the verb to know. But in French, there are 2 different verbs that we have to make a choice between, depending on what it is that we know. So we're going to talk about each one separately. So the first thing to say is, in the present tense, if you want to say I know, we say je sais, or je ne sais pas, as often the case, or je connais. And we're going to look at how they're different in a minute. And if you're talking in the past, you want to say I knew, usually you're going to use this in what's called the imperfect tense. The imperfect tense is something that you knew for a period of time. So je savais was I knew. Je connaissais, just move my face, je connaissais is I knew as well. And that's because the imperfect tense is something that is for a longer period. And usually when you know something, you've known it for a little bit of time in the past. So the first one we're going to look at is je connais. Je connais. So je connais is used with a person. Okay, so if you want to say I know Bob, you would say je connais Bob. Je connais Bob. Do you know Bob? Tu connais Bob? Vous connaissez Bob? So je connais Bob. We would also use it with a place. Je connais Paris. Tu connais Paris? Vous connaissez Paris? I am familiar with is another way that we could translate it. Instead of saying I know, we can use I am familiar with. If that works, then the chances are you probably need to use je connais. I'm familiar with Bob. I'm familiar with Paris. Je connais Bob. Je connais Paris. And we also use it just when it's a noun. So when it's one noun. So for example, you want to say je connais Audi. I know Audi. I'm familiar with Audi. I know that brand. Je connais Audi. Tu connais Audi? Or it could also be for a simple word like the answer. Je connais la réponse. Tu connais la réponse? Do you know the answer? We've got one single noun here. Tu connais l'adresse? Do you know the address? Tu connais le numéro? Do you know the number? Tu connais l'adresse mail? The email? So we're talking about one noun, one thing here, okay? Je connais. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here and you're going to say out loud whether you are familiar with these different things, okay? Whether you know these different things. So I'll call you vous as I don't know you. So I'm going to say, vous connaissez Harry Styles? Vous connaissez Harry Styles? So your answers are either going to be oui, je connais Harry Styles, or non, je ne connais pas Harry Styles. Vous connaissez Clermont-Ferrand? Vous connaissez la ville Clermont-Ferrand? Vous connaissez le dessert Saint-Honoré ou la pâtisserie Saint-Honoré? Vous connaissez le magasin Jiffy? Vous connaissez le magasin Jiffy? Okay. Now let's move on to je sais. Je sais is when you want to say that you know a fact. And when I say a fact, I don't mean necessarily just, you know, water boils at 100 degrees, the earth is round, you know, that sort of thing. But what I mean when I say a fact is that it's a sentence, something that contains a verb, okay? Not just one word. The one word ones, they were the je connais. But a fact is a bit longer, okay? So we're going to see some examples. Il est déjà 14 heures. It's already 2 o'clock. Oui, je sais. Yes, I know. This is a whole sentence. It is already 4 o'clock. We've got a verb there, is, okay? Next one. On va prendre le train à 8h30 demain. So we are going to take the train at 8:30 tomorrow. Again, it's that whole sentence and we've got the verb here, the verbs that we are going to take. On va prendre. Oui, je sais. Yeah, I know. Here's a couple with je ne sais pas. So, comment s'appelle son chien? What's his dog called? Whole sentence here. What is his dog called? We've got the verb here. Okay, s'appelle, to be called. And we can say je ne sais pas, je ne sais pas. In speech, that ne, we've talked about this before, that the ne is very, very often dropped in French spoken language. So we can hear often when we're speaking to people, je sais pas, je sais pas. And actually, je sais pas gets even more shortened to sais pas, sais pas. Okay, sais pas is a bit like the equivalent of saying dunno in English. Dunno. Je sais pas, sais pas, sais pas. But of course you can keep it as je ne sais pas if you want to keep it as that way, but just be ready to hear the shortened version. Here's another example. Quelle est la capitale du Rwanda? What is the capital of Rwanda? This is a fact. This has got a verb in it. Okay? The question has a verb in it. What is the capital of Rwanda? Okay? It's not are you familiar with Rwanda? It's a fact, okay? What is the capital of Rwanda? Quelle est la capitale de Rwanda? Je ne sais pas, je ne sais pas, or je sais pas, or je sais pas, je sais pas. The other thing that you use je sais for is if you want to say how to do something. So in English we would usually use I can here for, I can ski, or I can speak Japanese, or whatever it might be. But in French you use the verb I know with the verb that then you can do. So je sais, and then you would use your whole verb to talk about what it is that you can do. So this is a couple of examples for you. So je sais, and then it's the whole infinitive. Je sais jongler. Je sais jongler. Jongler is to juggle. So je sais jongler. And we could translate that as I know how to juggle. We could have also translated it as I can juggle. Je sais parler allemand. Je sais parler allemand. I know how to speak German. We don't need an extra little how to in there. All we need is je sais and then the full verb. And then we can do the negative ones. Je ne sais pas fermer cette porte. I don't know how to close this door. Je sais pas fermer cette porte. There's our full verb to close. And then there's this door. Je sais pas danser le tango. Je sais pas danser le tango. I don't know how to dance the tango. I can't. Je sais pas danser le tango. So let's do a little quiz and see whether you can remember when to use connaît and when to use sais. So the first question, do you know Sandra's husband, David? What do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be oui, je sais, or oui, je connais David? Remember, you can pause me at any time. If you need a little bit longer to think, just pause me and then I'll give you the answer. So the answer here is je connais David, because David is a person. So connais is with a person. Do you know where the bank is? Oui, je sais, je connais. Où est la banque? And the answer is je sais, because this is a whole sentence. Where the bank is, okay? I'm not asking you, are you familiar with the bank? I'm asking you where it is. We've got a verb in here, okay? Number 3, do you know what time the shop closes? Non, je ne sais pas, or non, je ne connais pas. What do we reckon? The answer is je ne sais pas, because we've got a whole verb here. What time is the whole sentence? What time the shop closes? What time does the shop close? It's got a verb in there to close. Remember, the verbs are the action words. Do you know whether he is late? Non, je ne sais pas. Or non, je ne connais pas. Well, let's have a look at the thing. Is it a whole sentence or is it just one word we're talking about? It's a whole sentence. Whether he is late, there's our verb, is. So it's got to be c'est. Do you know Rochechouart? Rochechouart is a lovely, lovely little town not too far from where I'm speaking to you from. So non, je ne sais pas. Or non, je ne connais pas. What do we think? It's non, je ne connais pas, because Rochechouart is a place. So remember, people and places, those one single words, they tend to be, they are connais, okay? Do you know if the binmen are coming tomorrow? It's a whole sentence, isn't it? Are the binmen coming tomorrow? They are coming. The action there. So it's got to be je ne sais pas. What about number 7? Do you know how to open this bottle? What have we got here? We've got a how to. So what do we need for how to? We needed sais. Oui, je sais. And the last one, do you know how to swim? Oui, je sais nager. Again, we've got the be able to do to know how to do something, that we need the verb afterwards. And last little thing to tell you about is a little bit of an exception. And it's when you want to say, I don't know the word. Now, from what I've told you, it should be connais, because I'm talking about one single thing, okay? And my rule was that if you're talking about one noun, you use connais. But this is a bit of an exception that's not quite grammatically correct, but in spoken French, when you are speaking and you don't know a word, you would usually use je ne sais pas le mot. Je ne sais pas le mot en français. Okay, I don't know the word in French. Oh, je sais pas le mot en français. You might be trying to explain something to the doctor and you don't know how to say it, so you have to mime it, but you want to be able to tell them, I just don't know that single word in French. So, je sais pas le mot en français. Okay? Je veux dire, I want to say, je veux dire nail, mais je ne sais pas le mot en français. Or, comment dit-on screwdriver? Je ne sais pas le mot. Okay? So it is a bit of an exception here, because usually the je sais pas has to be, it's talking about a sentence. It's talking about a whole thing with a verb. But I guess it's probably because it's replacing I don't know how to say the word in French. I don't know what the word is in French. So we have got a little bit of a verb in there. So the vast majority of the time when you want to say I don't know the word, it's going to be je ne sais pas le mot. Je ne sais pas le mot. There is a little exception of another time you might hear je connais pas le mot, okay? And that would be if you hear a word that somebody is saying, or you see a word that's unfamiliar, and you want to say, oh, je connais pas ce mot. I'm not familiar with this word. So you might see on a menu, a cake, for example, and it'll say moelleux, and you might say to the waiter, je connais pas ce mot, moelleux, and the waiter would say, it would explain to you that means all lovely and soft in the middle. So that's when you would use the connais pas. It's when you see a French word that you don't recognise, that you're unfamiliar with. But the one that we would probably use more than that is going to be the je ne sais pas le mot en français. I don't know the word in French as you're speaking. Hopefully that was helpful for you. I know it's a bit of a tricky one, and it's something that takes practice, and it's not the end of the world if you get it wrong. Nothing is the end of the world if you get it wrong. The worst thing that can happen is someone will correct you, and then hopefully you might get it right the next time. If you like to download a free accompanying PDF with the rules that I've told you on this video, it's just on a link that you can click in the description below this video. It will take you to my website, and then you can download it for free. And there's also a little quiz with some different questions on there that you can practice again. Okay, see you next week. Au revoir.